Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to When the Shift Hits the Fan. Tonight I'm here once again with my co-host and shifter, Miss Linda Lehman. My name's Mark Jeffrey. Might as well throw that in while I'm at it, right, guys? I want to welcome you all here tonight. We've got a packed line. We had to open up the line, and I really do hope that we got everybody in tonight. And what Linda and I have realized is that, gosh darn, there's a lot of people out there that are really, really struggling. And we wanted to really tackle this issue tonight like we probably have never done in the past. We found that perhaps, we're skirting over issues where you're stumbling quite tremendously. And so we thought tonight we'd take some time and chat about, how do you really, Linda, center yourself and get yourself even ready to accept the fact that you can be more than who you are, and getting the things in your life, like your health and your wealth and your happiness, having better relationships and having a tremendous business. How do all those things come to be if you really don't even know where to start? And this is where, Linda, right, we've had so many people emailing us and commenting about how difficult their lives are and asking us to help them in any which way that we can. So we're dedicating that night to you guys.
Absolutely, Mark. I've loved the conversations that we've started, and I love the feedback that we're getting. But you're right, it's all wrapped around people who are feeling like they're back against the wall, that they have nowhere else to turn, no place to go, and they don't know how to begin to claw themselves out.
And it's funny too, because I guess if both of us, if we think back in time, for the challenges that we were faced with, the way our lives kind of developed, I believe we were very well equipped to handle what we were tasked with. And I can go back and I can say, have I ever really been, without? Yes, I've gone through divorce, and that was very, very difficult for me. And I went through cancer. I've started businesses that didn't go where I wanted them to go. Yes, those things happen, and I realized I just kind of went through those things because I was equipped with some DNA that I had from both my parents being strong, but also because I wasn't the brightest kid in the class. I wasn't the best looking. I wasn't any of the best of anything. I had to try harder. Okay, so throughout my life, I know that I was challenged with, if I wanted more, I had to work for it. And so I learned throughout my entire life that I could do more if I learned more, if I practiced harder, if I got out of my own way, if I got out of my comfort zone and said hi to that good-looking boy, risking whether or not he'd shut me down. When I got sick, when I was younger, I kind of talked myself out of it because I had other things I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to let that stop me. So, I really have had a lifetime, and I know, Linda, you have as well, a lifetime that led up to the fact, to that day where, you've got stage 4 cancer. What are you going to do about it, right?
Exactly, Mark. And I am so grateful every day that and I know you are too, had the opportunities to dig into the moxie that we were both made of, but also I took my personal growth learning path before I had my cancer diagnosis, and I truly believe that education helped me through it. Now, were there other tough times in my life as well? Absolutely, Mark. I was young. I wanted to get out there and do the job before the education, so I didn't think that was necessary. We had some very tough financial times because I picked jobs and professions that didn't pay the mega dollars people would expect. You know, I lost a baby in between my two. We even went through, later on in life, we went through a foreclosure. I went through job losses where I didn't know where the money for our next groceries was going to come from. And I can remember way back when, even writing a check at the grocery store, way back before they had all these authorization capabilities, I knew it wasn't going to go through, but I had to feed my family. I mean, I've been through all of that, and I think it's how do we pull ourselves through those experiences and land on our feet? How do we pull ourselves through without beating ourselves up and making the situation worse? And both of us, through our own determination, what we're made of, DNA, whatever you want to call it, as well as our own self-education, we found a way to pull ourselves through, and then we've realized on the other side, even though we still have our challenges from time to time, on the other side, we realized that we actually have control of how we're going to respond, how we're going to react. We even have control when we take it on building our own circumstances. But it takes work, it takes dedication, and it takes an understanding and a faith that we can do this.
And I think that's really, and I tried to really analyze this because, mostly because of the comments and emails that have come to us over the last 3 weeks when we just really started this whole journey that we're taking on helping other people become self-aware and understanding that there's more to you than what you believe. And I know that when you're going through it, you don't see that there is any other possibility. And I know many of you said, well, how can you even understand what I'm going through? You've never been there. And how can you know what's best for me when you've never been down this alley before? And you're quite right. For many of you, I've not experienced what you have. I wasn't born in the ghetto. I was born a white girl. So I know that in some places in where you live, that can be very detrimental, and you're not, possibly getting the advantages that some other people would. Yeah, you're right. In a lot of respects, I have not lived on the street, although like Linda, I was damn close to it at one point. And it was because I made stupid choices with my life. I just did not make the right choices. I was born with a certain intelligence, so I'm a smart girl, but I wasn't using it at some points in my life. I went headlong for destruction. And most of you are going to find that that's exactly what you did. Now, your circumstances may be more dire than mine were. But I'm going to tell you, living on the street at minus 30 in Canada is not a comfortable experience either. And that was almost my reality because of bad choices I made. But I was able to understand that it was my choice. And I think that that's what, you got to look in the mirror. And you've got to understand that no matter where you are or what's going on, there are choices. And you can't get away from it anymore. Linda, come on. Nobody can anymore. You see so many things on the Internet, on Facebook, on TV programs of people that went from, totally destroying their lives, some of them purposefully doing it, and then coming out on top. So what Linda's always said to you, if it's to be true, it must be true 100% of the time. So if we flip the script on that one, what that means is that if they can, if I can, if Linda can, if your next door neighbor can, then so can you. There's no excuses. So even though it might seem right now that I'm browbeating you, I don't know. Do I need to pinch you? Do I need to kick your butt? What do I need to do so that I don't get another email or another Facebook comment that says, I can't. I can't. It hurts me, and it hurts my heart when I read those things.
Oh, me too, Mark. And I can't is really covering up a fear. And it may just be the fear of stepping outside of that comfortable misery or that uncomfortable comfort zone. The fear of the unknown, the fear of trying something different, the fear that anything that you try is not going to work. And then so we start piling on these excuses, and the first words out of our mouth is, I can't. Well, Mark and I are here to tell you in a very loving but maybe forceful way, yes, you can. I had a dear, dear friend of mine who truly felt her back was up against the wall. She had no place else to go. She had no place to turn. She was giving up. She was giving up completely. And in a last-ditch effort, she sent up a prayer. And in that moment, she set aside all of the excuses that she had been throwing up in front of every possible suggestion or opportunity that was presented. In this desperate moment, she sent up a prayer, and she just surrendered to it. And within a couple hours, she was open enough, with all of the excuses aside, to actually receive some tremendous opportunities that had been there all along. She just hadn't recognized them because she was too busy in her misery zone, her comfort zone, throwing excuse after excuse in front of it so she couldn't see it. But at that moment, she actually cleared the way to be able to receive the answer. And she's a changed person today and well on her way to the success and living the passion that she's been dreaming of for years.
And that's what it's really about. Are you really open? Now, and here's the thing. And we're coming up in this, and I want to talk about this a little bit more because we've been talking a lot about a lot of people reaching out to us talking about prayer and how nothing in life will you have no control over anything in your life. God controls everything. And I'm a good Catholic girl, okay, and I believe in God, and that's just the way it is. But I'm more of a spiritual person than I would say a religious person. But I don't believe for one single second that God is determining everything in my life. But when I pray, when I'm down on my knees and I'm at my last, I think that what happens is that everything moves to help you. It's everything that you could believe in, because there's nowhere else to be. But you have come to a critical understanding. And this is something that everyone who has bombarded me with, God will look after me. I'm sorry, but He's told you a million times in the Bible, you need to be doing that yourself, and I'm there to help you out. But in that critical moment, what happens is you do surrender. All of the excuses, you surrender, and you say, I cannot do this on my own. I require help. What happens after that is that the help comes to your aid, and it was probably there all along, but you see it.
Right. You surrender.
There's a big difference here.
Exactly. I also believe in God, and for those who call it something different, that's fine. A higher power, whatever you want to call it, but it is there, and it's loving, and it's there to give us everything that we want, everything that we desire. It comes in the form of gifts. We must take action. I mean, it's not like, and I think I commented back to one of our followers that it's up to us to utilize the gifts that we've been given. We can't expect send up a prayer and expect something miraculous to just fall out of the sky. The way I look at it is this: we have many gifts. From even the desires that we have to our imagination, we'll talk about a little bit later, to reason, everything is a gift. But this gift comes wrapped in a pretty package. So I don't know about you, Mark, but when somebody gives me a beautifully wrapped gift, I don't just look at it and say, oh, isn't that pretty, and set it on the shelf. Now, what I do, like I'm sure most people do, is I say, oh, this is so beautifully wrapped, and I make a half-hearted effort to try not to tear too much of the paper into little bitty pieces, but what do? You tear into the gift, and then you use the gift. That's what it was there for. And so I know that we're both saying the same things, that our prayers are answered, but we have to open the gift. And then we have to take action. We have to use the gift that we've been given. That's I think what all of spirituality and religion is telling us to do. Is here it is. Use it. Don't just look at it. Does that make sense, Mark?
No, it does make sense. And here's the other thing: you can't use God as an excuse. Well, that's the way God. The God put me here. That's an excuse, because if you know that, then you know that He is loving and would never put you in harm's way. And the choices, just like I made crappy choices, you made choices that got you to where you are. Maybe those choices were made by your parents, but you can make other choices. So when we're looking at what we want to do, I know that. And Linda, you brought this up right at the very beginning too. There's some kind of fear that's there. Well, fear of the unknown. I mean, I met more people that are fear of success than fear of failure, interestingly enough. People would say to me, well, what if I do make a lot of money and I would lose my friends? And what if, and I'm going, well, okay, that's, a problem a lot of people like to have. But the thing is, that's still another excuse for why I'm not taking that step. And once we sit down and we realize that those are excuses, when we talk about journaling all the time, and write them all down. Write those things down. What is that excuse that you have made for yourself today for why you're not where you want to be, why you're so unhappy, why your relationships suck? All of those things. Why didn't you get that promotion? I mean, most of us, and Linda, we've done that, and everybody's done this, right? Somebody comes up to you and said, and I'll just think, I lost my job today. And they go, I have no idea why. And in your head, you're going, I know why. Well, yeah, that it happens, right? And we don't see it. And because we don't want to see it, because we would have to be responsible. And that's the same thing. We have to be responsible. God is not going to do it for you. He's going to help you when you're down on your knees and you finally say, I give myself to the powers that be to help me get through this. Definitely. I believe that. I believe that with all my heart. Because when I was going through cancer, you bet your butt I was on my knees. And I had fear. I had fear that I wasn't going to see another day. Because you know what, Linda? We've talked about this, but I don't think I've ever said it out loud, is that every night I went to bed, I was afraid I wasn't going to wake up. I was afraid to sleep. Because if I went to sleep, I had no control over what was happening. And then I was afraid I was going to die in my sleep. Because I had unfinished business too, right?
Right.
If I had finished all my business, I had a 16-year-old daughter. I wanted to, even though I had lived my life way out loud, and I could honestly say, if I died tonight, at least I did everything I wanted to do. But there was always to this point. Because we all want tomorrow. I mean, I swear if I was like 100,000 years old, I'd still want one more hour. But I was afraid to go to sleep because, see, somebody told me something. Okay, and I'll tell you how this happened. Somebody told me something, and this, I know it's happened to every single one of you guys too. Somebody said to me, you have 2 weeks to live, maximum. Well, I started counting down the days.
Yep.
I did. And the closer I got to that deadline, the less I wanted to sleep. Right? Because what if it was true? So, if somebody said to you, you're never going to get that job. You're never going to marry a beautiful woman. You're never going to have a successful online business. If somebody said that to you, somewhere in your heart of hearts, you're believing it. You're believing it. I believed it. Even though I'm a very strong person, and I was doing everything I could to get myself out of the hole that was dug for me, I still had that nagging little thing, 2 weeks, 14 days, 12 days, 9 days, Mark. I still had it. And even after that, I found myself being a little more cautious of things I did and said and stuff like that because there was still that fear. Then when I got past 14 days, I thought, oh, now you're on borrowed time. See, we do that as humans, right? Linda, we do it all the time. We are our own worst enemies. And so when you all sit there and say, oh, easy for you to say, easy for Linda to say, it's not. It's not. You've got to believe that, if nothing else.
Right. You know, it's just that somewhere along the way, Mark, we made a choice. We made the choice that it could be different. It could be different than what we're being told. It could be different than the current circumstances that we see around us. It could be different. And we started taking the responsibility to make it different. And the glory part about that, Mark, is that when we really accept this and we start choosing a different way of seeing things and a different way of thinking about things, all of a sudden, our environment starts to change. Our circumstances begin to change. Things start to look up. Now, a lot of people do this and they don't realize they're doing this. They don't understand. They don't know why things changed. They don't know why they are now, 15 years past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is, I mean, we're just, even as a society, just scratching the surface scientifically on learning how powerful our mind truly is. And that fascinates me. I study it all the time.
Yeah, so do I. And yeah, I'm totally amazed by that. I'm totally amazed by the fact that everything that I can have is in my head. You know, I just have to find the right key to unlock it. That is amazing to me because you know what, Linda? When that happens, when you kind of know that, right, or understand that, nothing is impossible then. That's when you truly start becoming happy, even though you don't have everything maybe that you want, things aren't teed up the best. You kind of know that, hey, but I've got it in me to do it. That is a whole different mind shift entirely.
It's huge. Absolutely huge. And you know, the other piece of that is I hope our listeners can kind of think back in their own lives on this one. When you tell yourself the same story enough times, it becomes the truth for you. So when you're telling yourself that story that you were raised in the wrong part of town, that nobody in your family has ever been successful, that you're in this situation and that's just the way it is, it's as good as it gets. You tell yourself that story often enough and you believe it to be true, and it will be true. Okay, so understanding that your mind is so powerful that it takes what you're telling it, taking it as truth, and then making that truth around you in your circumstances. I mean, you've noticed that. You think that the worst is going to happen, and you focus on it, and it does. Okay, you have that tremendous power, so why not reframe that and start using that beautiful power and start telling you how you want it to be. Start building that picture. Start taking that power, believe in it, and tell a new story. Start over and over again telling the new story, the story that you want to hear, the story that you want to see around you. And watch what happens, Mark. This is where miracles happen, where people say, I don't know how I got to this wonderful part of my life, but I'm here. I can't explain it, but this is the way it is now. Well, it's because you started telling yourself a new story.
Mhm. So I guess, really what you have to do here is it's the honesty game. It is what it is. You have to sit and decide, am I choosing what's happening in my life and I'm not happy about it because I'm too bloody lazy to go out and get something better, because I just don't feel I deserve anything better? I mean, you really have to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. And you know what? You get to do it in the piece of your own life. You don't have to tell anybody about it, but you really do have to come to issue with it and dissect it and understand why that is, because nobody brought it upon you. If you were born in the Badlands, you can move. It might take you 20 years to get there, foot by foot, or even inch by inch. But the fact of the matter is, you are where you are because of the choices that you made. They aren't choices that were made for you, because I say this over and over again. After the age of 18, it's all on you.
Right. And your choices, I mean, you may say, well, I was raised in a really, really bad family environment, and so how can you say that it was my choice? When you're a youngster, the environment that you're born into is not your choice. But, as Mark said, by the time you reach the age of 18, you can choose to hang on to all of the bad stuff that happened and allow that to influence your life moving forward. Or you can choose to start focusing on the life that you truly want to live and then taking the steps necessary to get you there. There is no excuse to hang on to all of those excuses about, well, this is just the way I was raised, I had a bad family, they always told me I wasn't going to amount to anything. Let it go. Some of the best advice I ever heard, and for a lot of people this is very difficult until you really grasp the true meaning of it. Forgive your past. Understand that the people who raised you were giving you the very best that they knew how to give. And it may be that your parents grew up in an abusive family and didn't know that they actually could exercise their choice and be different. So they were just repeating the same thing that they had learned. So they were actually, in their mind, giving you the very best that they could give at that moment. So appreciate that they gave their best. Forgive it. Forgive the hurt, because that's the only way you're going to be able to move forward. Once you forgive that, and then you decide to take full responsibility for how you're going to think about it in the future, retell the story and move on.
Mhm. And two, when we think about it, you aren't. I guess how am I going to frame this one? If your father's a serial killer, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're set up to be a serial killer. And But I get something too that happens with that when we come from, we do this. And I know this, that, if your parents are maybe not, we'll take, if they're overweight and they're unhealthy, let's put it in that frame, and you're embarrassed by it, it's also okay. I know we can love people. We don't necessarily have to agree with who they are. And it was funny because I just have to bring this up because this kind of made me a little bit angry. I watched My 600-Pound Life, Linda. I don't know if you've ever seen that show.
Mm-mm.
But it's what it's called. And these people are, around 500 to 600 pounds. And most of them are, older people, whatever. And they just ate. But there was one. And the one I watched, actually, she was 23 years old, living with her mom and dad. Her mom and dad were a little overweight, but not like her, obviously. But it made me crazy mad because they were feeding her. And then, all this bad food. And I kept thinking to myself, well, take it away. She can't run and get you. And I kept thinking about this. Then the mom and the dad were going, oh, we're so scared for her health. All I kept saying was, if you're so scared for her health, why the hell did you keep feeding her? But see, this is the thing, and it's a long way to get down this road, but that happens. We can be fed stuff in our life that is detrimental to us, and it's our choice to eat it. And we can be fed stuff in our lives that make us amazing people. It's our choice to eat it. But, this girl was locked in this house, basically being fed by her parents. I have no idea. The psychological stuff of that, way beyond my comprehension. But that was the one time that made me angry of what people can do to people they purportedly love. And if any of you out there are in that situation, you got to do what this gal did. She went outside of that and got help. And right in the doctor's office, that's when he said to both those parents sitting there, when they could sit on one chair and she needed 4, this is your fault. You're feeding her. And in that moment, that girl realized they were feeding her. And so if you can take that beyond the scope of what Linda said, my parents are this and I was raised this way and all of that stuff, you still have a choice. You still have a choice to change that. And not everybody is going to be looking after your best interests. And I don't care if they're your best friend or it's your mom. So I have something tonight I want to talk about, is stop fighting your own strength. And this is kind of where I was driving to. I just hope that I put it in enough frames that you could maybe think that this could have been me. Why do you think things happen by age? Like you start off with a tricycle, and then you get, the training wheels, and then you get the bicycle, then you get, you get the beat up car, and then you got a good car. You started off with you got a law degree, and then you started off being a gopher, and then you eventually became the attorney or the doctor. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. Some of us are still gophers out there, and it's because we're not going for it enough. We're fighting our own strength, our own capability. Linda, I have no way that I can make people bust through that by anything that I would say. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, it's so important for everyone to realize the great strengths that you have within. And I think it's perfect for you to say, stop fighting your own strength. Because your strength is there. If we go back to the excuses, your strength is there. It's there to serve you. But so many times we squelch it. We tuck it back. And again, I think it's that fear factor. We named fear in our Smash series. We named it George. Give him a name and then show him how truly strong you are. You have such tremendous power. You have such tremendous gifts within you. Stop fighting that strength. Stop fighting those gifts and allow them to come forward. Allow them to just envelop you and show you the way. You know, so many people, and even in our own times of great distress, you know, we talk about getting on our knees and sending up a prayer. God's not just there for us when we finally break down and we're against the wall and we send up a prayer. He's there for us all the time. And as I said in the beginning, He, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is giving us what we're asking for 100% of the time. The biggest problem is we're making it very confusing because we're sending conflicting messages. We say we want this, yet the next breath we're saying, but that won't work for me.
Yep, I want to lose weight, but I never have been able to. I want to make money, but I don't know how. You know, it's all of whenever you've got a button there, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Because no matter who it is, nobody knows what you want.
Right. Only you do. And only you can articulate it. Only you can be specific. Only you can describe it in perfect detail. But once you do that, and you realize that you have this tremendous power inside of you, there's no stepping backwards. Stepping backwards is going to be the easiest thing in the whole wide world because that's going to put you right back into that uncomfortable or comfortable misery. But you're never going to change. You're never going to grow. You're always going to be stuck there. But you have this amazing power within you to move forward, and you have the assistance of a great, loving God universe there to help you. So be specific. Build this picture with your marvelous imagination. It's one of the greatest gifts that you're given. Open the box and pull it out, and let it work for you. Let it build this picture of exactly what you want. See yourself doing it. You know, if it's a beautiful house you want, that's 2 stories, watch yourself going down the stairs. Watch your steps. You know, don't look at it as if somebody else is doing it. You do it. You be the person. You see yourself as the person. Pull in all of your senses. Taste it. Feel it. You know, touch it. Smell it. Pull in your loved ones. Get excited about it. You know, build this picture and don't look back. There's nothing back there. You can't change the past. It's done. Forgive it. Bless it. Pull the lessons forward so that you don't do the same things again. Move forward toward this beautiful vision that you've built on the screen of your mind. That's how you get out of whatever circumstance that you feel like you're just locked into. That's how. This is one of those gifts that we've been given to use instead of just look at in a pretty box.
Yeah, and I don't know, Linda, I have to ask all of you out there tonight is, do you think that maybe God put you in our path so that you would find us? And that maybe you should listen?
I firmly believe that, Mark. There are no accidents. So the people that we meet are there for either us to help or for them to help us.
And, you know, and I'm not saying that to impress anybody at all, but did you ever think of that? You know, did you ever imagine that sitting in the darkness of the night in your despair, that you could go to your phone or laptop and turn it on and there would be 2 people offering a night of achieving your heart's desire? And some of you said that's not possible. Some of you said it might be possible. And some of you said, hell yeah, I'm in. And at each step of that, the ones that are in it will win it because they've already imagined it happening. They already have a belief. They have a flicker, right? It may not be a flame. It's a little flicker that this could change. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to be a Mark or a Linda. you may not like my life. Half of you don't even like Canada and the cold. That's good.
I love you,
right?
Mark, but I'm not living up in Canada.
Exactly. But does that mean you have to be a mini-me? No, not at all. Well, all I'm saying is that there's more for your life, and no one, not any one person, I don't care where they are, should live in despair. Because even that mass murderer, serial killer made choices. Yeah, and we know that there's people that have fractured minds and they need help. I just have this whole thing about, I think choices that were made brought you to where you are. I'm not so sure in some cases, and I'm not going to get into a big debate on this, that some people can even be rehabilitated because the choices that they made make them happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't mean everybody's going to be good people, my friends. They're happy in their world. They like their depravity. And so what did God have to do with that?
God gave them what they wanted.
Exactly. The universe said, you like it, you got it, here you go. So if that can do that, again, we come down to if it can be right for someone, it must be right for everyone. Like if it's possible, it must be possible at all times. And I know we're going to come down to, we have to, the prayers. We talked a little bit about this. I believe in this. And this is just me personally. Linda may not even agree on this because we don't have to agree. But I use prayer as my little therapy. And when my friends send out a prayer looking for prayer warriors, I add them to my prayers at night. And some people, and you can call it your gratitude, to me it's sending up a little thing to the universe and to God that thank you very much for this day. I'm sending out, some help to other people that may be struggling right now, and I'm hoping that you can help them find a way. And I know that hearts will be open enough to accept it. And these are the things I say, that I've had a bad day. Things just didn't go the way that I wanted them to. I'm going to go to sleep tonight, and I know that my mind will figure out a way to make tomorrow a better day. I know that. I have faith in that. And thank you. See, that's me. It's a therapy for me. But it's not like, oh, well, send in the troops, dude, because I'm screwed. Right? There's a whole different part to this, and I'm not using an excuse like I can't get out of this. Right? I'll always ask, help me find a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you usually do. Especially when you open yourself up, and prayer is the way that a lot of people do that, to open themselves up to receive the answer, which is where we started in the very beginning. Are you opening up to hear the answer? Because the answer is always there. Everything you ask for is given.
So if you believe that God is the master of your world, then you also must believe that He'll help you. But you have to ask, and you have to be willing and open enough to accept the answers. Because sometimes, I'm going to tell you this, guys, they're not going to be what you want to hear. Because there's no we talked about this on one of our shows. There's no easy way out of hell.
No, you got to start moving. And up is probably the best direction.
Yeah. But the thing is, we are very content in our lives, but that doesn't mean that there isn't things going on in our businesses and things every day that drive us crazy. But we know that there's always an end to everything. Okay, there is. There's always an end to the bad stuff. And again, that may not go your way either, but there will be an end. But you can stack the odds in your favor at least by allowing yourself the possibility to know that the possibility does exist, that you can be much more than who you are, that where you are right now, if it's pain and sorrow, that it can get better. And if it's joy and happiness, it can get better too.
Exactly. Just like when we were in Peru and we were trying to go into some of the sacred temples, but they were blocked off to the public. And I remember Richard, one of our guides, just saying, I'm going to go talk to them, and if they let us in, I'll be happy. And if they tell us no, I'll be happy.
But it was taking and seeing and doing, not accepting that there's a rope across there. And, I think that's a really good way, maybe a visual, Linda, just as you brought it up, a rope across your life.
I love it.
Now, it's going to be two types of rope, right? It's the finish line rope where you burst through it with your hands in the air and, yeah, I did it, or the one that is a steel cord that every time you come up against it, it cuts you deeper.
Good one.
What do you do?
You ask
what do you do?
And you know what? Whatever the answer is, you're going to be happy. If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. But if you ask, the answer could be yes, and the rope gets put away, moved out of your path, so you can go on through.
Yeah. So there's no need to live a life or a death of 1,000 cuts. You know.
That's a good one.
You don't have to do that. You shift into amazing. If you do not shift, have that understanding. Keep room in your heart for the unimaginable, and not unimaginably bad, but unimaginably good. The best part of your life. Yeah, the best part of your life is right ahead of you, right in front of you. So if you need to get on your knees tonight and pray like you've never prayed before, and then when you lay your head down, you ask the question, what is it that I can do right now, tomorrow morning, that can start me on a change? And just let your mind go to sleep and figure it out. When you get in the morning, though, I want you to watch for things. I want you to start watching for things. Is there a phone call, or did you overhear a conversation? You're out of a job and, I don't know, you're in Starbucks, or, you're walking down the street and you heard something. Turn around. Pay attention to it. That could be the person that you are supposed to connect with that is looking for your talent but can't find it. It comes in strange ways. So we have to be, and we're starting from the beginning, you must be open to get the answer. So be aware.
Exactly, Mark. And no matter how out there it might seem, I think one of the biggest hurdles that we all have to cross is to let go of trying to control the how. We know what we want, and the next thing you know, we're trying to control 100% of how we get there. But if we'll just let that go and be open, as you said, to the unimaginable, people and circumstances will be put into our path, but we have to be open enough to recognize them, even if it's just to ask the question. This may sound very strange, but I was just thinking about this. Is there something you can help me with about it? And next thing you know, somebody said, well, yes, as a matter of fact. Or as Mark said, you might overhear a conversation. You can always introduce yourself and say, I overheard your conversation. I understand that you're looking for people with this particular talent. I happen to have that talent. When can we talk? You never know.
No, but that's the thing, you never know. And it's funny because, and there's a thing in life, deja vu, right? And none of us really understand it. It's purportedly, you've done it before. For me, it's I'm tracking right. Okay, whenever I come across, and I have that a lot in my life, and it I almost catch my breath when it happens, because it's not just a glimpse. It can be a whole series of things that, a whole series of things that just kind of collapse on time, and I'm going, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, I'm good. And it's just a rebalancing of whatever it is. Like, I don't understand it. I don't know what it is. All I know is that I allow it to be a part of my life and me to understand that I either have to make a change because it is not going well, or I'm good. I'm in the right place at the right time, and what I'm doing serves me. And Linda and I have talked about this because it kind of, how do we come to be? How do we come to be shifting through space together now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a trip to Peru that was almost a offhanded decision that, hey, this seems exciting, and let's go. And it was even time after that of something we both were involved in didn't turn out the way we had planned, and we reconnected and became to be who we are. It didn't happen overnight. It was a series of things that happened in our lives that brought us on the same trajectory. But even now, when I write things, and Linda goes, yeah, I was talking about that. I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, exactly, Mark. And I love it when, as most, unless you're a new listener, you know that I have a layman's terms daily thought that I put out there, and I will write those a lot of times in advance. If I have a couple of hours on the weekend, I might write, a week's worth or 2 weeks worth, and go ahead and cue them up. Especially if I know that it's going to be a really busy time, then I'll go ahead and cue them up to go out timely. And inevitably, our thoughts are on the same path, and I'll look at things that you're posting, and it coincides with what I was posting, but it wasn't like we talked about it ahead of time.
No.
Our minds are in sync at those particular times and at that particular moment, and just think about all of the additional people that we have touched with similar messages on that very day. It's amazing to me.
It is amazing. And so think of that. Like, if you have the capacity, and you have the money, I guess, that you can own a laptop or a phone where you can get online and you can hear us and listen to us, then you must have the capacity to know that your life can be much better than what it is, because you're here. If you believe in God, He connected you with us. Are you going to be open enough to stop making excuses and start living a life? Like, man, Linda, I want to start hearing that. Like, and we do have. I love some of the people that have been with us for a long time, and now you see their comments much different. Like, yeah, it's going great, Mark, and, oh, best day of my life. Not too long ago, those same people were in many of your shoes, where we're now getting that, no, nothing will ever change for me. This is what I have to deal with. They changed. So you can. And I guess that's for me, Linda. I just want people to have hope, but I want you to understand that hope doesn't go anywhere without determination, without persistence, without hard work. It just can't. It has no legs. It needs some legs, and that's what those are.
Right. That's why we're in these physical bodies, because, we can move. We can take action. We can get up there somehow, some way, and move forward. Speaking of determination and persistence, for those who listened last week, or I guess week before last, oh, yes, I fit into that dress.
Yeah, and you looked gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And here's the thing, like, we all use excuses, and I'm going to end it with this because we're at just about the top of the hour, and we try to keep this within half or an hour. But we all do this. I mean, I can do it too, and I keep telling you, my trainer's chasing me all over the country because I try to evade working out. But it's good for me. I feel good after I do it. It's just my mindset, it's just, I've got to change it. Like, I'm going, and she can't do it. but she can find me and she can make me do stuff. And so when you can't do it, then you utilize someone else who can do it for you. Eventually, I will get to the point where it's summertime and I don't mind getting bundled back up and going out, getting sweaty, coming back out to a cold car and going home, and I'll do more of this. But in the meantime, I depend on somebody to do that for me, and that's my trainer, who I pay good money for her to find me wherever I try to hide and drag my butt back to the gym. So, you know, sometimes you need a buddy. Linda's mine, we're accountability partners. Sometimes, you know, we go, you know, should we do this? And we're going, yeah, come on, you know, we're better than this. We'll go do this, right? What if nobody, we said this, what if nobody ever comes to one of our shows? I'll tell you something, it's therapy for me, and I'm sure it's therapy for Linda, that we just get to talk about it too, because sometimes our lives aren't that great either. We stumble and we fall. And this is part of our therapy too.
It absolutely is, Mark. I love when we come together, and you know, even if nobody was listening in, which we know that that's not the case because we broke the bridge line. Even when nobody's listening in, I don't care because we get this time together where we're bouncing ideas off of each other and helping to boost one another up. You know, even though we may feel alone, we're not ever really alone. We do have support mechanisms out there. Again, we just have to be open to receiving those.
Absolutely.
So the last thing that I have that I wanted to just kind of throw out there tonight as my final words, just kind of to tie this up in a bow, is the real shift happens when we accept where we are right now and take 100% responsibility for that, and then we move forward outside of our comfort zone or misery zone toward our dreams.
Mhm. It'll happen. And so I'll leave you with have faith. So I want to thank everyone once again for spending this time with us. Hope it gave you a little bit of a boost that you can go into tomorrow and be stronger than you are today. And that's something that I want you to be able to count on. Count on you. You have that strength inside you. So for Mark up here in Canada, good night, everyone.
And from Linda down here in Florida, thank you for listening and good night.